Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Ahead of the Chains. I am joined once again by my favorite co-host, Patrick. Now, we have a very exciting episode for you guys today because it is officially draft season. We had free agency last week and we made plenty of videos about that. We also made plenty of videos about the blockbuster trade that got reversed. Don't think I'll ever see that again. But now that the dust has kind of settled on free agency, I'm really excited to get into the draft. I think the draft is one of the best days of the NFL calendar, period. That includes the Super Bowl. And now I think is now the socially acceptable time to start doing mock drafts. I know people have been doing it since December, since their favorite team was like 2-11. I understand that. But Patrick, talk about what we're going to talk about today and how excited you are to kind of get into the draft season, draft mode, scouting. I know you're a film grinder. I appreciate it. But just talk to me about how excited you are about draft season.
Well, draft season's always fun, right? I always say the draft is the great equalizer in this league. It really is, because a team that was at the bottom of the pile all season long now has the ability to get the best player in this upcoming class, right? Like that is such a huge advantage, and that turns around a franchise, right? Look at how the Bengals were able to make a Super Bowl just shortly after drafting Joe Burrow, number 1 overall, drafting Jamar Chase, number 5 overall. That stuff really makes a difference. So that's why I love the draft, and seeing teams turn around. That's what makes the NFL so fun. That's
And I think
always been the case. Right.
And I think free agency is great. Like, we could talk about, oh, this guy's getting $100 million. Oh, this guy, that, whatever. But when you look at the way teams are built, when you look at the teams that are stacked, when you look at the teams that have all this young talent, it doesn't come from free agency. It comes from the draft. So to me, this is what's going to mold the league for the next several years. These are going to be the up and coming stars of the league going forward. And I'm very excited to get into our mock draft today. Quick disclaimer.
It's going to be a predictive mock. We're not
Yes,
doing any
yes.
trades. Not
No.
right now. We want to experiment maybe with that later down the
Yeah.
line, later in the draft process. For now, we're keeping it simple, the most bare bones possible system here.
Yeah.
Predictive. So it's not us trying to go with who we think they should take. It's just trying to guess who that team is going to take. So
Exactly.
predictive mock with no trades involved. And then we're going to wrap it up towards the end, talking a little bit about free agent quarterback movement, right? And
Yeah.
talk about some of those situations. We're going to rank them.
And the other important thing to note for our mock draft coming up, I will be in charge of all of the odd picks. He will be in charge of all of the even picks, so we will alternate picks. Like he said, this is not who we would take. This is who we think each team, each GM will take. But Patrick, if you're ready to get into it, I'm ready to jump into the mock draft if you are, my man.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like we said, we are going to start the draft with me being the odds and him being the evens, and we're going to go that way throughout. If you'll notice, there's already a pick on the board, and that's because it's Fernando Mendoza. He's been the first overall pick for 6 months now. He has been the, minus 10,000 favorite. I'd bet my mortgage on it. I'd probably win a few pennies back. Fernando Mendoza is the first overall pick. There's no other exception. I would take him. The Raiders are going to take him. My mom would take him. There is no way that Fernando Mendoza does not go number 1 overall. We talked about Fernando Mendoza. I've talked about him in the past. I'm not certain that Fernando Mendoza is going to be a superstar, but I'm pretty damn certain he's not going to be a bust. He's way too good above the shoulders. He's way too cerebral. His personality's too good. He's too much of an optimist. In a world full of doom and gloom, he really is a batch of sunshine and rainbows, which is not how you typically describe a football player, but I think it's applicable for Fernando Mendoza. Very smart guy.
Not how you describe a Raider.
Yeah, it's very not at all, and especially not somebody who's a resident of Las Vegas. But he is kind of the inverse of all that, and I'm not certain he's going to be a superstar, Caleb Williams, whatever. But I do think that he is going to be not a bust, and that sounds like I'm being mean, but I'm certain that his floor is very high and his ceiling could be high as well. But Fernando Mendoza is the pick here for the Raiders.
I think you should have a little bit more optimism. I've evaluated quarterbacks for 6 years now, right? I've been evaluating players in the draft since 2020. That's when I started. And there's not a large list of guys who have come out of college with a higher football IQ and the processing ability that Fernando Mendoza has.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. You think about when your Seattle Seahawks were getting carved up by Phillip Rivers, that was single-handedly because of one thing, and that was what a quarterback was capable of up here. That does so much, especially in the modern NFL where a lot of quarterbacks don't play that way. if you're able to create an offense that really maximizes that in Fernando Mendoza, you are guaranteed to have a strong attack that might not be flashy at all, but they are going to be able to consistently operate against
Yeah.
even the top defenses in football, right?
Yep.
Just because of what your quarterback is capable of. And I think that, I can't believe I'm saying it's becoming an underrated trait, but it really does feel like it is becoming an underrated trait because I mean, my entire life, I grew up with Tom Brady destroying teams because of what he does with his brain, right?
Yep.
And Peyton Manning beating you because of what he does on the line of scrimmage. And I'm not saying Fernando Mendoza is that level, obviously, but what he has shown in terms of processing pre-snap reads and making certain checks at the line of scrimmage and being able to just make the right decisions, I mean, that it's an elite trait. It is an
Yep.
elite trait. And is he
Yep.
lacking in other areas? Yes. But Mendoza does have that Joe Burrow ceiling. Let me just make that very clear. He
Ooh.
has that ceiling. Will he reach it? Maybe not. But there is definitely a world where Mendoza does deliver on the first overall pick quarterback label. And that comes with being a potentially top 5 quarterback. Build the right offense around him. But there is a world where Mendoza actually does show that upside. And I think you are underplaying that a little bit.
I might be. I also think it was crazy that you said Philip Rivers carved us up when he had like 160 yards and a touchdown. I digress. I digress. We won the Super Bowl. I can't be salty. But Patrick, transitioning now to the second overall pick, you are now in the shoes of the New York Jets general manager. You are tasked with saving the franchise. You're going to pick somebody potentially to help a defense that had 0 interceptions. I will bring that up every opportunity I can. It's the most unbelievable stat I've ever seen in my life. But what is the pick, or what should be the pick, or what do you think the pick is? I'm changing the question. See, I'm throwing curveballs at you. What will be the pick for the New York Jets here at number 2?
Well, they're going to go edge. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to go edge because some of the best players on the board right now are edge rushers. Some of the players that I know NFL GMs are going to have as their highest graded individuals from this class are at the edge rusher position. They need an edge rusher after
Yep.
trading away Jermaine Johnson. They need it.
Yep.
For me, it comes down to 2 names. Arvell Reese, who, in my opinion, is the best player in the class. What he has shown in terms of pound for pound strength, unrivaled. Unrivaled. I haven't seen a player at his weight play with that level of functional strength. He is insane. He is insane. With him, the little question is how much, he hasn't played edge rusher an insane amount. He's mainly played off ball linebacker. So do you really trust him to play full-time edge? I think that concern is kind of crazy because you watch his tape and it is insane. It
Yeah.
is like, if he had that tape, just double it and had twice as much tape doing the stuff that he's doing, he's like a unanimous, incredible number 1 overall pick caliber defensive player. Like the way people talked about Chase Young would be the way people are talking about Arvell Reese if that was the case. It's just he doesn't have that much film. But the film that he does have at edge rusher is that level. It is Chase Young caliber. So I do kind of say, yeah, this guy could play edge rusher. I have no doubt about it. I do feel that confident. Now, is he mainly a power rusher and he doesn't really display all the moves in his bag? Sure. But if you're always winning with power, why do you need other moves? 1. And 2, when he did use other moves, they looked amazing. So, no, I have no doubt about this guy's ability to play the edge rusher position.
Is it safe for me to click Arvell Reese? I feel like you went on a few minutes about him. Is it safe for me to click him in our mock draft that we're doing?
Well, and that's kind of the thing. He should be the pick.
Yeah.
It's just a question of do the Jets do the Jets thing and go with the David Bailey that I think is severely underwhelming. I know the combine was great. I get it. The numbers are pretty impressive. I don't care. The tape, in my opinion, is disgusting from David Bailey. They should go Arvell Reese as someone that lives with Jets fans, right? As someone who comes from a family of Jets fans, I want them to make the right decision here. So I'm going to say Arvel Reese.
Manifesting it. That's what I like to see.
Yes.
Coming out with pick 3, another kind of real dumpster fire franchise. Now, we talk about the Jets and the Browns, in recent years, the Titans, but the Cardinals, I don't think, are getting enough blame for just how bad they've been. Honestly, their entire existence. They've been around a long time. This is a team almost as old as like the Bears and the Packers, and they have nothing to show for it, right? This is a team who has really never had success. They've had a playoff run here or there that took them a couple rounds deep, but it's nothing that's ever been really sustainable. Mike LaFleur coming in now to be the new coach of Arizona. They just released Kyler Murray, who we will touch on later in this episode. But this is an Arizona Cardinals team in flux. Now, if I am Monty Ossenfort, I'm thinking about what is going to match my contention window, right? What are players, what are positions that are going to match my contention window? Honestly, I think that they do want to go with an edge rusher. And you spent a lot of time talking about the debate between Arvel Reese and David Bailey. And I'm with you on David Bailey. I don't know that he is a certifiable top 5 edge rusher guy that is can't miss. You should take him over Arvel Reese. But it does sound like that's the way that the league is leaning. The league is seriously sounding like having a coin flip decision between him or Arvel Reese. So because this isn't a what I would do if I was the Arizona Cardinals, because this is a what I think they will do, I am going to go with David Bailey right here. Again, I'm not going to defend the pick a lot because it's not something that I would personally do. But given the position of need, given that they have a premier pick, they're taking a premier position. David Bailey in league circles seems to be a guy that everybody's in love with. So that's why I'm going with him at pick 3 for the Arizona Cardinals.
He's an athlete. I mean, the athleticism is definitely there.
Yes.
My frustration with him is he isn't very big, but he, similarly to Arvel Reese, strangely, really only uses the power moves,
Right.
and he's not very good at it. Like, he wins with them, but you could tell it's because of faulty reps by the tackles. When the tackles have good reps, he doesn't win. He doesn't win. So, I mean, it's funny because it feels like the conversation between Arvel and Bailey should be inversed. It should be Bailey as the raw prospect because he's the one that clearly doesn't understand what his body is truly capable and built to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least Arvel is doing what his body, is made for. Like, he has the strength to be a power rusher. Arvel Reese, backs it up a little bit more. David Bailey's a power rusher who should be trying to win with more finesse, but he doesn't have the moves in his bag.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, David Bailey has no business going this high, but he will because of his
Yeah.
skill set, because he's an edge rusher, and because that's just the flavor of the year
And you
that they
mentioned
chose
like,
to go with.
he's a phenomenal athlete, and he tested well and everything like that. I mean, we've seen teams just salivate over that, especially
Yes.
the guys at edge rushers.
Mhm.
So I don't doubt that he probably will go higher than either of us would like him to. But I do, again, this is I think what will happen, not what I would do. Transitioning over now to your pick, you have pick 4 with the Tennessee Titans. I think I know who you're going with, but before I
Do
click
you?
on the name, I want to hear what your answer is.
Well, I wonder who you think I'm going to, because this is a pick that I think you can go a lot of different directions with. Maybe they reach on a receiver because they really do need one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I think that's very much in play. Maybe they go with another offensive player. Maybe they go running back because Jeremiyah Love is probably the best offensive player on the board right now,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they choose to go that direction. But Brian Dable is the same guy that operated an offense with Devin Singletary as the lead back and was very good with it. So I think they go on the defensive side of the ball. I think the run on edge rushers continues. I think they go Reuben Bain.
Ooh, that's not who I thought you were going to take. I know you can't see it, but I was circling Sonny Styles because I thought that was who you were going to pick to go with Tennessee. You just made my number 5 pick a bit more complicated because I was in my head preparing for Sonny Styles to go number 4 to the Titans, and then at number 5 I was going to go not with an edge rusher because the Giants have edge rushers. Like, they're good on edge rushers. So that complicates the formula for 5. But sticking with 4 for a second, why do you think, because in my mind, Sonny Styles is the pick, and maybe in your mind it is as well, but why do you think in Robert Sala's mind the pick would be Reuben Bain over a guy like Sonny Styles, who literally broke the combine this year?
Well, so here's my thing, right? I think part of it, again, Sonny Styles being the player he is, he's definitely a pick you want to entertain there, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't deny that. But I do think you get more value out of the edge rusher position, a little bit more. Now, there is a little bit of something to say about Jermaine Johnson being there on that team, but you
Yes.
only have 1 year left of him.
Mm-hmm.
I know what Robert Saleh is about, right? You got to keep in mind the coach that Robert Saleh is. He wants to win with his front four. He
Mm-hmm.
does. Like that is what he is all about. I do think complementing the length and the physical threat of a Jermaine Johnson with a Ruben Bain on the other end is it a move that I love? No, I
Mm-hmm.
think Sonny Styles would be the better pick. I think Sonny Styles is the better player. I think he's the best off-ball linebacker I've ever evaluated. But I do think the Titans are going to build this the right way, and they're going to build it by building the core first. And when you say core position, edge rusher stands out a lot more. And locking in on figuring out the edge rusher position seems like more of a priority than figuring out the linebacker spot. And
Interesting.
while Saleh, he had good linebackers with the Jets, he did. He never spent tremendous assets to bring them in. And I look at a current duo of Cody Barton and Cedric Gray, who Cedric Gray is a freak athlete in his own right. I think you're fine riding that for a year. And I know Sonny
Interesting.
Styles, again, generational prospect from the off ball linebacker spot, but I do think Ruben Bain is more of a Saleh guy here. And I think he wants to win with his front four. He doesn't want to send extra pressure. And when you have a four guy defensive line of Jermaine Johnson, Jeffrey Simmons, John Franklin Myers now,
Mm-hmm.
and then Ruben Bain on the other edge, suddenly you have one of the best front fours in football.
Yeah, that is dangerous. That's dangerous. So moving on to pick number 5, I think the reason that's so interesting is because it could have fallen so perfectly into the Giants' lap, right? And that's where I'm talking about the Titans have taken Sonny Styles because now the temptation to take Sonny Styles is not there. In which case, I would have gone with Jeremiyah Love. Now, the reason I am thinking that the Giants are going to take Jeremiyah Love is because A, they did not spend money on a free agent running back like they were rumored to do. No Kenneth Walker, no Travis Etienne, no Brees Hall, none of these guys, right? I think the reason that they did that is because they told themselves, all right, we're going to take Jeremiyah Love 5th overall. Now, the Sonny Styles equation pops up, and I think in their minds, they're going to be tempted to take Sonny Styles. But if I know the New York Giants front office and I know the way they operate, two things are true. Number one, John Harbaugh comes from a long line of having really good running backs. Number two, the PR disaster, and I know I bring this up every episode and I get laughed at, the PR disaster that was Saquon Barkley, right choice or not, it was a disaster in that New York media market. They are going to get themselves a stud running back, Jeremiyah Love, the best running back in the class by a country mile. That's my pick here at pick 5. And
Wow.
now,
So even
now,
with Styles there, you
but the
choose.
reason I think they don't take Styles is because they just signed Trayvon Edmonds to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Now, does that
Even then,
really matter in
though,
the
you
grand scheme of
compare the
things?
two.
You could pair the two, but I think in a 50-50 battle, that tilts it ever so slightly towards Jeremiyah Love. And I'm telling you, they want the superstar back that they had with Saquon years
Yes,
ago.
that's what
This
the
is
rumors sound like.
this is the giant, and the fact that they didn't go out and get a running back. I don't think they signed any running back, like not even like a 1 year, $2 million a year guy. So I'm telling you, I think Jeremiyah Love's the pick for them. I think they've been locked in on him, and I think that's why they weren't aggressive to go get a running back in free agency.
So suddenly, with the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns,
Yep.
you put me in a really interesting bind because
Yeah, you
you
did it to me
know,
first.
well, yeah, well, how dare you let this all time great off ball linebacker prospect fall to me?
Yeah, exactly.
So man, really interesting spot. All of a sudden, if the Titans don't go Styles,
Mm-hmm.
I was locked in on going offensive line here for Cleveland. I really was. I was locked in on them going Monroe Freeland, who I think is a Monken guy. But now JOK, we know he's going to continue to miss time. Sonny
Mm-hmm.
Styles feels like a can't miss prospect. This is where I feel like if we included trade, a trade happens here,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
the Browns would be
But
like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?"
yeah, yeah, a
Yeah.
trade definitely happens here. But I think Sonny Styles becomes a Cleveland Brown. Pair him with Schlesinger. All of a sudden, that defensive front, I mean, at some point in the next decade, becomes an all-time level unit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, with Myles Garrett there, Mason Graham, Schlesinger, Styles, you can't miss. You can't
Yep.
run on that front. You can't pass against it. This becomes an all-time level defensive front. Now, again, Styles, him falling to 6 is not about us disliking him. I think we're both on the same page of that. I love Sonny Styles. I think you love him just as much. Best off-ball linebacker prospect I've evaluated. That's how I currently feel. He's outstanding from the athleticism. He backs it up on tape. There's no doubt about that. I just think this board has kind of fell in a way that lands him here at 6. And I don't think the Browns, even though they don't need the off-ball linebacker, I don't think you pass up Styles at 6. I really don't.
I would argue that in this instance, where we have gone Fernando Mendoza, Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Ruben Bain, 3 straight edge rushers, Jeremiyah Love, Sonny Styles, I think if you're Washington at 7, you probably are trading down because teams are going to try to get in on the last little bit of that kind of A-tier pass rusher run that's going to happen. But in this mock, we are not doing trades. And I'm really trying to rack my brain, like, what do the Washington Commanders need? What is kind of the style of Dan Quinn? What has he had success with in the past? And I'm gonna pull one out of left field here because I think that this is kind of a Dan Quinn type of pick. When Dan Quinn has had the most success as a coach, whether it would be defensive coordinator, whether it would be as a head coach, he's had great safeties, right? You go back to the Seahawks with the Legion of Boom, he had Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. And when he was with Atlanta, Keanu O'Neal was playing the best football of his life. I think personally, they would be really tempted to go with Caleb Downs here. Now, you might say 7's a bit rich, and maybe you're right, but I'm in love with Caleb Downs. Can you tell that me and Patrick like these Ohio State guys? Just saying, they should have won the national championship this year. I think the Commanders go with Caleb Downs. They get them one of these new hybrid superstar safeties that are changing defenses. He's nowhere near the athlete that like Nick Emanwari or Kyle Hamilton is, but he's going to change the game in a different way. He's going to change the game with his mind. I think he's one of the most intelligent safeties I've ever seen. And if Dan Quinn is anything, he is a defensive back whisperer. We've seen that over the years. He doesn't really have a lot of firepower in that defensive backfield in Washington. I think he would be really, really tempted to go with Caleb Downs out of Ohio State.
Caleb Downs, there's so much to like about him. So
Mm-hmm.
much to like. His ability to play kind of that box safety role is excellent. I don't love him at the nickel spot, but he could definitely do it. He could play high safety. He really is this Swiss Army knife for
Yep.
all over the defense. And I mean, this is a Dan Quinn defense that likes to have these extra bodies in the box. He's not a too high safety guy. He
Yeah.
isn't. So having a athletic safety that could play in the box and chase guys out of it and potentially drop, high up into coverage from the
Mm-hmm.
box,
Yep.
that does a lot for you. That
Yep. I
really
agree.
does. And I think that's the only real way to really modernize the Dan Quinn defense, in all honesty.
Yep.
I think that's exactly what Washington needs. Now, with the Saints, I think you got to go wide receiver. And I think this is when wide receiver range starts to make sense. The issue is that there's 3 guys who are our consensus top 3. They're not necessarily my top 3, but there is a consensus top 3 wide receivers. And that would be Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, and Jordan Tyson. And all 3 have their fault, right? Carnell Tate, not the fastest guy on earth,
Yep.
right? Mekhi Lemon, apparently there's some personality issues now.
Well, he's like
Rumored.
playing eye tag with the reporters. I don't know if you saw that video at the combine.
Yeah. There's some rumors coming out about him not being having the great interviews, right? And then Jordan Tyson, you have the injuries. Then you look at the tape, and they're all a little bit of different receivers, right? Carnell Tate, more of like that big body possession type of guy that you like. Mekhi Lemon, a nice, like shifty, short route runner that'll get open quick. And then Jordan Tyson, also a really nice route technician, but he's going to get open more in the vertical game and kind of stretch the field a little bit more. I think Carnell Tate is the best complement to Chris Olave. So I'm going to go with Carnell Tate because I think if you're looking for someone that directly complements Olave's game, and I still think Olave is a very good receiver, Tate is the best option to do exactly that. So I go Tate. This is another weapon to help you develop Tyler Shough, who ended the season very well. I like what Kellen Moore seems to be building here, and I think this is another nice piece to add to that equation.
Yeah, the hit rate on Ohio State wide receivers is pretty good over the last few years. So taking a guy at top 8, I think you're pretty safe. I think he's the best receiver in the class. I know I've talked to you about this. People think I'm probably an Ohio State fan with how well I talk about their players, but I absolutely agree. He's a perfect complement to what they have going on with Chris Olave. But now I come to the dynasty in the making, right? We have this team in the middle of their dynasty picking top 10 in the draft. This is a very, very rare occurrence. And I've picked 9. And if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, there's really only one name I'm considering in this spot. The draft has kind of laid out perfectly, and I would bet a lot of money that when Brett Veach made the trade to send Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams, he zeroed in on this pick being his replacement. That's Mansour Delane out of Louisiana State University. Listen, the Kansas City Chiefs, if they've done one thing well throughout the entire Mahomes era, it's draft and develop. And they've done it specifically well on defense. Getting Steve Spagnuolo, another player, another guy, another first-round pick added to his defense is going to be absolute. I imagine this guy's going to be a phenomenal player year one. They are so well coached. They develop players so well. They scout so well. They are going to replace a corner and save about $30 million a year and get very similar production, I think, from Mansour Delane. Now, he's a different type of corner than Trent McDuffie, so there may be a different way that they deploy him. But I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's the best corner in the class. It's not a great corner class, so the fact that they have the 9th pick in the draft, to me, allows them the opportunity to have their choice of the litter, because I don't think a corner is going to go in the top 8 picks. Corner's a major area of need for Kansas City. They traded away Trent McDuffie, added an extra first-round pick, saved about $30 million in cap, and get a player I think that is really, really good. Any disagreements with Mansour Delane here at pick number 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs?
No, I definitely like it. Listen, you just got rid of L'Jarius Sneed, or not L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie. Sorry.
Well, and Jalen Watkins left 2 in free agency. I didn't even mention
Yeah.
that.
So you lost the 2 of them. You still try to be this competitive team. Well, you got to replace your corners. And I do think Mansour Delane has had really nice tape. I am a big fan of Delane and what he has done. So, yeah, I think adding him into a Steve Spagnuolo defense, this could be a very nice add for them, without a doubt. I definitely think, and listen, the Chiefs have a good history with LSU DBs. They do. So,
There you go.
I think this is a pretty good pick for them. I think it's a pretty easy pick, too. I think Mansour Delane is definitely the right pick in this situation. Now, as we round out the top 10, can't help but notice there hasn't been a tackle off the board. And the Cincinnati Bengals, well, Trey Hendrickson just got stolen from you. Now you have to play against him twice a year.
Yep.
TJ Watt's still in your division. You have to play against him twice a year. And Alex Highsmith. And the Steelers, let's be honest, the Steelers are always going to have a great edge rusher core. They always are. That's the key to their identity.
Yeah.
And then Myles Garrett is in your division.
He's pretty good too. Yeah, he's all
right. Very, pretty damn good player.
Just 23 sacks.
You have one of the worst offensive lines in the sport. You have a potentially, at the rate he's going when he's healthy, he looks like he's going to be a Hall of Fame level quarterback, Joe Burrow.
Yep.
Issue is he can't stay healthy. Let's change that. And I know they tried drafting some offensive tackles, but they haven't been the team that drafts the first offensive tackle off the board. Now they have the ability to do that. Pick number 10 overall, the Cincinnati Bengals, they go offensive tackle. Question is, which guy? Which offensive tackle?
Which guy are you picking?
I think Spencer Fano, has been my favorite. He's been my favorite tackle. And I hope, and this is really just a prayer, because not like we know their type at offensive tackle yet, really.
They don't have a type.
They don't. They just try to go with the best guy possible, and they suck every time. And they just don't do a good job. They haven't really established a type at offensive tackle. It's a generally newer offense for them. Fano is a really good pass blocker. He has the foot speed to keep up with anyone. I mean, his recovery speed is incredible. He's going to stay in front of guys for sure. Guys are not blowing by him. I think Spencer Fano is the pick here.
That'll be the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, coming in at pick 11 for the Miami Dolphins, this is my first pick in my kind of turn of taking the odd teams where I'm kind of thinking there's a lot of different options. And truthfully, new regime, they have a new quarterback, they have a new general manager. Like, I don't know what the Dolphins will do because we haven't seen this current incarnation of Miami. We haven't had, patterns to recognize over the years. So I'm going to do something where I look at the roster as a whole and say, what do I think Jeff Hafley is going to want? What do I think Jeff Hafley is going to need? Personally speaking, I think of Jeff Hafley as a guy who obviously will prioritize defense. He's a defense coordinator in Green Bay. But I'm looking at some players right here. The edge rusher run has kind of ended in terms of the A tier pass rushers in this class, right? The guys that, are going to go top 10, going to go top 5, et cetera, et cetera. So I might go with another playmaker here, a guy that I think could help fill a need for them after trading away Minka Fitzpatrick, and that's Dylan Thieneman. Don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That's how I've heard it pronounced. I hope I did it right. But you want to talk about a guy who is a super athlete? He is phenomenal. He is phenomenal. I think that Jeff Hafley will like to have a player to start off his regime in Miami who is an athlete. Again, we talked about like the way that the safety position over the last few years, Kyle Hamilton, Niki Menwari, Derwin James was doing this forever with the Chargers, can transform your defense and give your defense that identity. Jeff Hafley, to me, is probably going to want his version of his defensive centerpiece, his first draft in Miami. And I mean, you look at some of these edge rushers, I don't see a lot of the top tier edge rushers available. I don't know that they'll reach on a guy like Akeem Messidor. So for me, I would take a guy that probably has a lot of upside, who's a great athlete, and Jeff Hafley can see what he can do. He's got a fresh toy to play with here in Miami. So that's my pick. But admittedly, Miami is pretty hard to predict because, like I said, they have a totally new regime. So I don't have old patterns to kind of fall back on with them.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, they definitely could go Thieneman. I never really thought about that as a possibility. It's a little bit of a reach, but at the same time, when you have that type of combine, you really can go
Yeah.
anywhere. It feels like it could go very high like this. He is a remarkable athlete. There's no doubt about that. Someone with a lot of versatility. He can play a lot of different roles. I do find it interesting. Right after moving on from Fitzpatrick, you find your replacement right after. It is interesting. I want to stay at DB, though, as we talk about the Dallas Cowboys, because they need one. They need one badly. They got
What are you doing
shredded
here, Jerry
apart in the
Jones?
secondary.
What are you doing here, Jerry
Well, you
Jones?
have to go with the defensive back position. And I think it has to be it's tough. Because on one hand, Jermon McCoy, his injury history and whatever is going on with that injury should scare any reasonable team off.
Mm-hmm.
But Jerry Jones is not reasonable.
No, he's
He is
not.
not like sane people will look at the fact that this guy has been injured for a year, still won't go in the combine, still won't do anything, and say, okay, that guy's not touchable. There's no way I'm drafting him in the first round. But the Cowboys aren't sane. Jerry Jones is insane. And there's a chance that if this guy is healthy, just looking at his tape, if he is healthy, you're getting like a Sauce Gardner level prospect here
Mm-hmm.
because his tape is that good. His tape is that caliber of player. He was locked down in every way, shape, and form. He is that caliber of player. And I do think if he didn't deal with that injury and we're just dealing with the player he was in 2023, is that what it would be now? Wow, that's crazy
Wow,
to think
that is
about.
crazy.
It's 2020. No, I think it would
No,
be
2024.
2024.
It'll be 24. Yeah,
2024.
yeah,
Yeah.
24.
Injured partially through 2024, but 2024. We're looking at maybe in a draft class where Sonny Styles is the player that we're talking about, and all those Ohio State guys like Arvell Reese are crazy. We're looking at the best player in the class right here. If we're just
Mm.
looking at that tape, the issue is he's coming off such a major injury. I think if any team were willing to take that risk, though, with the number 12 overall pick, I think it would be the Dallas Cowboys. I think without Mansour Delane here, there really is one answer, and it's Jermon McCoy. It is. So I'm going to go McCoy here for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that does seem to be a very Jerry Jones type of pick. Gambling, he's a high stakes gambler. A guy that would gamble on Jermon McCoy not only being healthy, but being the player that he was prior to injury. I think that is the quintessential Dallas Cowboys pick. Now moving on to pick 13 with the Los Angeles Rams. And I hate to say this because I'm about to pair them up with a guy that I really, really like. But when you look at this Rams team and when you look at this, contention window that they're in, maybe only have a couple of years left. They're everybody's darling to go back to the Super Bowl. They were everybody's darling this past year to go to the Super Bowl, and for good reason, right? I can't for good reason, right? Stafford played like an MVP last year. He was the MVP. Puka Nacua played like the Offensive Player of the Year. Sean McVay was in his bag. They ran into Seattle, unfortunately. Womp womp. Cry me a river. But this is a Rams team that is very primed for contention, as evidenced by their recent move for Trent McDuffie. They're pushing all their chips into the table. I know we've talked about in the past how the Rams are on the forefront of this multiple tight end sets, of this 13 personnel movement that everybody is, I'm sure, soon going to hop on the bandwagon of. But I can't help but think that taking this 13th pick, they're going to go receiver. And the way that Sean McVay thinks, the way Les Snead thinks, they loved high impact players. Now, their defensive line, I think, would be a consideration here, other than the fact that, like I said, all the good edge rushers are gone. Not all the good edge rushers, all the A tier, top tier edge rushers are gone. And the fact that their defensive line is in a phenomenal spot with all those young guys. I think right here, potentially it's, biblical level greed. But I think Mekhi Lemon's the pick here for the Los Angeles Rams. Getting Stafford another weapon. I almost said Smith. Devontae Adams is older. He, missed a good chunk of the year last year with that hamstring injury. I don't know that you want to depend on him to be the Robin to Puka Nacua's Batman. Imagine calling Devontae Adams Robin a few years ago. Isn't that crazy? But it's true. He is the number 2 to Puka Nacua. But if you can add a young guy like Mekhi Lemon into that mix as well, just give Stafford and McVay all of the toys to play with. Two of those guys who I think will deploy those guys very well. I do think receiver is a luxury pick for them, but again, they're so stacked and they have the 13th overall pick that they could go and afford to make a luxury pick like this at receiver and have a contention plan or a contingency plan, for when Devontae Adams is no longer on the Rams in probably a year or so.
I do like that mindset of looking ahead, right?
Yeah,
Now, I also find it interesting. This was a team trying to add A.J. Brown and
exactly.
move on from Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very likely possibility because they've already kind of shown that this is their mindset. This is what they want to do. They want to start thinking about the future, life
Yeah.
after Devontae Adams.
And I can't say that he's washed because he did lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns this year.
Devontae Adams, we talk about how much route running means, and it is purely
Mm-hmm.
because of his route running ability. He is still, I would say, a top 10 guy at the receiver position. I would say that.
I wouldn't say top 10, but
his ability to get open, his knack for getting open, and his technicality, it is one of one.
Yeah, he is
and
a savant when it comes.
That stays around, right?
Yes.
And Mekhi Lemon has some of that. Now, I do think Jordan Tyson has a little bit more of it. I think he's more of a Devontae Adams replacement. But of course, the concerns about him being injured and the injury concerns should scare a team. But now we move over to the Ravens, and the question kind of becomes, well, are they scared of that from Jordan Tyson?
Yeah.
I do think Jordan Tyson's very much in play here for the Baltimore Ravens. I definitely think so. And this is where the Ravens have to look in the mirror because there are two things they could do. They could either go with kind of the luxury thing and try and replace Linderbaum with Vega Ione, the interior offensive lineman out of Penn State.
I'm glad you said his name first because I was thinking about picking him, and I'm like, I have no idea how to pronounce this guy's first name. So thank you for taking the bullet and being the sacrificial lamb there.
Yeah, no, I didn't even say the full name because it's like Ola. I have it up right here. Ola Eva Vega Ione.
Yeah, Vega Ione is good.
But people call him Vega Ione, so I'm just sticking with that.
I'm good with that.
I don't want to sound like a white guy trying to pronounce some name that I have no business trying to.
It's like the POV or the white guy ordering food at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be that close.
So do they go with the luxury and try and replace Linderbaum there? Or do they go with the wide receiver, try and add to the talent that you got in Zay Flowers? It's really tough. It is. But for me, it's between those two. I think you see Mekhi Lemon going right here. You trust, kind of foolishly, but you do trust your ability to build up your interior offensive line in-house and develop them. They've been trying to do that for a while. They kind of failed. We saw a lot of that last year. Guys like Falele weren't very good. Voorhees wasn't very good. And a guy like Vega Ione, I really think is a guarantee to at least be a solid offensive player for you.
Mm-hmm.
But they need that complimentary wide receiver so bad. They really do. So I think Jordan Tyson is the pick here. I think they're going to go with him, compliment Zay Flowers with him, and I think that's a really nice tandem there. I definitely
Yeah,
do.
they have tried mostly unsuccessfully to get Lamar Jackson his big play wide receiver. They tried it with Rashad Bateman, that didn't work. They tried it with Zay Flowers, it kind of worked. Like he's okay. I wouldn't say he's a game changer by any means, but he's a solid NFL wide receiver. But they're trying to hit home runs in Baltimore. I really do think so. Jordan Tyson is going to be a guy that is going to be able to give them another shot at that. So I'm with the pick here. I think wide receiver is in need. I maybe think just the Ravens culture and what they're doing is going to speak to Ione. However, I do know this is a new regime now. This is not the John Hart. This is not your dad's Baltimore Ravens. This is the Jesse Minter and the Declan Doyle led Baltimore Ravens. Maybe they have a different philosophy. So I don't really know what they are going to do. Again, if one of the top edge rushers were there, they'd have a guy to pair up with Max Crosby. I mean Trey Hendrickson, and so, but that's not the case. Obviously, at pick 14. How funny that they have their pick 14 back now all of a sudden. Pick 15 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, just as a taking a macro view, the Buccaneers are in just such a weird spot right now. I just think that they're in a weird spot. I don't know that the Buccaneers are great anywhere. I don't know that they're horrible anywhere. They're a team to me that screams like we need to do like what the Seahawks did a few years ago and just reset. Right? We're stuck in neutral. We are not going anywhere. We're not a Super Bowl team. We're never going to pick in the top 5. This is a team that couldn't win the worst division in football last year. They went 8-9, despite ironically winning the last game against the Panthers to give them the same record and then the tiebreaker, but whatever. This is a team that, again, I think they kind of, in a way, have needs everywhere and very few places at the same time. Because, again, they're not great anywhere. So if I'm Todd Bowles and I'm Jason Light, I'm really trying to go back to my morals. Like, what worked in the past? What made Tampa so good when we were at our prime? And to me, that's when they were really good up front. That is when they were really good up front. That is when they were really good on the defensive line. I know this might be a reach, but just based on what the Buccaneers, again, have prided themselves on, defensive coach, I think Akeem Mesidor is kind of the first guy in that second tier of edge rushers that goes in this draft. Maybe overdrafted just a little bit, but A, he plays a premium position, and B, I think the Buccaneers are kind of desperate to get some of that juice back from the early 2020s when their defense with Tom Brady was so impenetrable. I see this kind of as a desperation pick in a way. Again, this is not what I would do. This is what I'm predicting the Buccaneers to do. But I think Akeem Mesidor is the pick for the Buccaneers here at pick 15.
Yeah, and now we're seeing some really, I mean, I think they're pretty good offensive linemen continuing to fall,
Yes.
right? And it now becomes a question of what team is going to take advantage. This is where, again, I could see a team trading back because someone's going to pay a high price to get a Monroe Freeling with the pick 16 or
Yep.
Francis Magoa at pick 16. Someone would trade up in order
Yep.
to do exactly that. But we're talking about the Jets. We're doing a draft with no trades. I think the Jets, they're not going to be the team to take advantage of the offensive line fall, although they
They
lost
actually have
AVT.
pretty good tackles. That's the only thing they
Yeah,
do got going on right
exactly.
now. Yeah.
And they did lose AVT. Maybe they go Vega Ione. But I do think it's between going wide receiver. The issue is not as many wide receivers here right now. Or, and this is truly where I think they go here because the wide receivers went, they go corner. And there's one specific corner that screams Aaron Glenn. And that's Avion Terrell.
I knew it.
Avion Terrell.
Yep.
I think it is a textbook Aaron Glenn pick right here. I would lock it in right there. If the wide receivers look like they do right there, and they have the 16th pick, and they don't go Vega Ione, they go Avion. You got to keep in mind too. Yeah, they added a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball through free agency. Only added one corner, and it was Nashawn Wright, who was near the top of the league in terms of yards allowed.
But
So
he had a lot of interceptions, though.
he had a lot of interceptions.
I know.
You're not
He was
spreading
not a good player.
misinformation.
He was
You're
not a good
not
player.
spreading misinformation by saying that he had a lot of interceptions.
I'm not
But
me.
like you
Me
all,
when I lie without lying. Me when I
yeah,
lie without lying.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he also isn't a very good player.
No.
Avion Terrell, he's a physical cornerback who plays lockdown coverage, and he's very, very responsive in man coverage. He could stay in any wide receiver's back pocket. Very physical, very, very handsy. That's what Aaron Glenn likes. And you want to bring in your Sauce Gardner replacement. These are the types of guys you look at. Now, will he be Sauce Gardner? I don't love him. I'm not in love with Avion Terrell, but he is the type of guy Aaron Glenn tends to like. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to be their pick in this situation if it falls
Adding,
this way.
just so we're clear now, with pick 2 and with pick 16, we have the Jets taking Arvell Reese and we have the Jets taking Avion Terrell. If you told me that the Jets take an edge rusher and a corner at pick 2 and 16, I think that that's a pretty perfect draft. So we are
The issue is your defense or your offense is still like.
You got to do one at a time, though. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the Jets aren't rebuilt in 75 years, so you can't like rebuild it. I know that's a good one.
That's a good quote. That
is a good quote.
I like that.
I might frame that actually in New York. See how fast I get beat up, but you can't. I think like try to stretch yourself too thin. You have to say, all right, there's a good defensive player. We're going to take a good defensive player. I think taking an edge rusher in a corner for the Jets would be an ideal swing. But here at pick 17, a team in the Lions that, by all accounts, had a very disappointing year, didn't make the playoffs. Every year since the NFC Championship game peak, they have gone one or two steps more downhill. And it seemed like this offseason, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. Taylor Decker retired and then said, no, I'm not going to retire. I'm coming back. And then, actually release me. So they did. There's some weird stuff going on. But when the Lions were at the peak of their powers, and when the Lions were one of the best offenses in the NFL, number one, they had Ben Johnson, Crimea River. Number two, they had a dominant offensive line. That is why I think that their pick here is pretty obvious, especially with the offensive linemen sliding in this draft the way that they are. Monroe Freeling, to me, is a Detroit Lion. You can debate between which tackle you like the most. I think he screams Detroit, in my opinion. Detroit, a lot of these other teams have liked those tough SEC type of guys. I know the SEC is losing its allure a little bit because, the Big Ten has been running college football for the last 3 years. They're the last 3 national champs. I get it. Monroe Freeling, to me, feels like a Detroit Lion. He's joined his former teammate Tate Ratledge there in the middle. And I think that they are very happy to take the first offensive tackle in this draft because they need one now with the departure of Taylor Decker. My, question now is, do you move, 4-time All-Pro Penei Sewell to left tackle? Or do you keep him at right tackle and make this rookie your starting left tackle? I think there's some interesting combinations there. We've seen a couple of guys who were elite at right tackle flip over to left tackle. I think that might be a conversation for another day. But when you have an opportunity to take a guy like this at pick 17, I think you have to do it, especially with the weird release of Taylor Decker.
Yeah, I think there is something to say about how Penei Sewell has been right tackle for as long as he has and has been great at it. So maybe you don't want to move him, but it's definitely a conversation worth having. Now, you took Thieneman earlier, and that was the guy I was eyeing.
He is such a Viking. He is such a Viking if he's there.
I was eyeing him with the Vikings pick. I was.
Yeah.
But
Harrison Smith, welcome back.
And that's something you have to look at. And there's a part of me that says, maybe you go another DB, you kind of need it. Maybe you need a defensive tackle. But then I looked and said, well, what was the problem with this team last year? Well, it was the offense. It was the offense. And, we talk about the new wave and how the good coaches adopt the trends that work in this league.
I know exactly what you're thinking right here.
You know exactly what I'm thinking here. You want to hop into this two tight end, multiple tight end mindset. You have Justin Jefferson as wide receiver 1. You have Jordan Addison as wide receiver 2. Your wide receiver 3 right now is Ty Felton.
Yep.
So, and the wide receivers here, they're fine. They're fine. But what might be better? Adding another tight end, basing out of 12 personnel. Get me Kenyon Sadiq. Pair him with TJ Hawkinson. Kevin O'Connell's adopting the new wave for Kyler Murray. Let's see it happen, man. Let's see it. I'd be a big fan.
You are such an a-hole because I was about to take him. I thought about taking him a couple picks ago, but you're absolutely right. A guy who is the closest branch, you would say, to the Sean McVay treats. Kevin O'Connell was his offensive coordinator, won a Super Bowl with him as the offensive coordinator. If he sees Sean McVay run a lot of this 12 personnel, 13 personnel, et cetera, I think there's going to be some copycatting going on. I think Kevin O'Connell's going to be like, all right, well, you have Terrence Ferguson and Tyler Higbee. I run you TJ Hawkinson and Kenyon Sadiq. Maybe it's just Oregon tight ends that are now running the league. Who knows? Maybe that's the new wave and we're misinterpreting it. But
let me say, Kenyon Sadiq in general as a prospect, man, he's a crush of mine. He's a crush of mine because he's such a good blocker, but then he's also a remarkable athlete. The performance he had at the combine was really, like, that blew me away.
Yeah.
I did not think he was going to go ahead and do that because he was a blocking tight end.
For a guy who is so loved by so many draft analysts, people like me and you who do this show, coaches, didn't have a lot of production. Like, you're going to be underwhelmed if you go and Google his stats. I think part of that speaks to the Oregon offense being at times dysfunctional. I want to say dysfunctional, but not in rhythm, I would say.
Well, they used him as a blocker. He was a blocking tight end. But then when he got the ball, he was always explosive, and he's a good route runner. He could do all that stuff, man. Sadiq, I think he is a really interesting piece out of this class. He's one of my favorite players, really. But now the Carolina Panthers find themselves in an interesting spot. What do you look at here?
So I'm going to start by throwing a stray at PFF because they list the Panthers' biggest need at wide receiver, which I don't agree with.
They're pretty deep there.
Yeah, they're pretty deep. I like Coker. Leggett is not anything great, but he's your third wide receiver. Who cares? And then obviously Ted McMillan last year was really, really good. So I don't think that they necessarily have a hole at wide receiver. I think maybe some more depth would be nice, but probably a bit rich for my blood to take one at pick 19, especially given that the ones have gone. I understand, that they signed. Well, here's my thing, right? I'm looking at two guys. I'm looking at Vega Ione, but they've paid huge contracts to Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis on the interior. So you're thinking, okay, probably don't want him to play guard. Do you want him to play center? Maybe, but whatever. Then I'm thinking Francis Mayoga, I hope I'm saying that right, from Miami. And because Ike Ekwonu got hurt and he's going to probably miss the entire year, which, by the way, what a horrible injury to have in the playoffs. Yeah. They might have beat the Rams if he was healthy for that whole game, but whatever. But then they somehow get Rasheed Walker for 1 year's, $10 million? I love the Panthers free agent class before they did that. And then they somehow get this guy for 1 year, $10 million. So that's clearly a very mercenary-esque deal while Ike Ekwonu recovers. So I don't know if they're going to go with offensive linemen here. I do think that they could go linebacker, but then again, they signed Devin Floyd. So a lot of the needs that I think this team has, I think they've already addressed. So I'm going to go with an edge rusher here. I'm going to go with a guy who is the best edge rusher on the board in terms of overall consensus and what the coaches would pick. And that's Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. A guy who I think you could describe him as a brute. I think that would be a good way to put it. The Panthers defense also, I thought their defensive backfield was really solid, especially towards the end of the year. When Mike Jackson really started to kick it into gear, their defensive backfield was real nice. Their edge rushers and their defensive line was not consistent all year. Edge rusher to me is the move here at pick 19. Again, this is now where we get into tricky waters because we're beyond that A tier of pass rushers. Mm-hmm. So now you're talking about guys who have all sorts of different grades. Falk might have a second round grade, a third round grade. Some guys might have him top 10. Who knows? I think that Falk is probably going to be the pick here for the Panthers, given what they've done in the offseason to shore up some needs, and then they can go with an edge rusher in the draft.
Falk's just generally the type of guy the Panthers tend to like, more of these
Yes.
run, defend first types of
Yes.
edge rushers,
Brute. Exactly like I said.
and that's exactly what Falk is. But Falk does definitely have some upside as a pass rusher. I don't want
Yeah.
people to
I
underestimate that.
sneaky like him kind of. I'm debating putting him in that like tier 1. I'm like flirting with putting him like on that tier
I
list cuz I do
He
really
needs
like
to
him.
develop. Like his play recognition is some of the worst ever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
true.
he can defend the run, man. There's no
Yes.
doubting that. Now the Cowboys, they also need a pass rusher. I really think there's only one choice, and it sucks because I don't think it's exactly what they're looking for as a pass rusher. But I think they need it. I think they need their pass rush help here. I think it's all if they leave round one with these two picks and they don't draft a single pass rusher, they should feel terrible.
Yeah.
They should. I think they have to go DJ Parker. I think he's far and
Ooh.
away the only like draftable option. Or right here, really. I
DJ
think he
Parker,
is.
edge out of Clemson. Wow. Look at that.
I think he's the best edge rusher there. And again, it's not a pick I like at all, but they need it. They need it a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think they go. Like maybe they go Caleb Banks on the interior, but I think they need the edge presence complementary to Rashawn Gary, and they need it badly because
Yeah,
Rashawn
especially
Gary, he's not exactly a name you love either.
now his film last year in Green Bay was I don't want to say horrible, but
It
especially
wasn't appealing.
when Micah Parsons was in uniform and playing for the Packers, he looked a lot better than when he was the lone pass rusher on that team. When Micah
Yeah.
Parsons went down, Rashawn Gary's production didn't exactly skyrocket. So I would be potentially worried, like you said, about Rashawn Gary being my one and only quality pass rusher. But I guess we will have to see where the Cowboys do with pick 20. So looking at pick 21, what do the Pittsburgh Steelers need? What will Mike McCarthy and the new regime out in Pittsburgh, well, it's not totally new regime, it's just a new head coach. What will they decide to go with for the 21st pick? To me, they are a lot like the Buccaneers, where I said they're not horrible in a lot of spots, although I do think they have some big needs, but they're really not great anywhere. Like, there's not a single area where the Steelers are like, yep, they got it, they're good. They don't have quarterback. They don't have the receivers. They don't have, well, maybe they do have receivers now that they got Pittman, so they're solid there at least. But there's a lot of decisions to be made here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, I'm looking at a position that they could potentially need, which is offensive tackle. A guy who would just be such tremendous value at pick 21. That's Francis Mayaga. Again, I totally butchered his name. I apologize. A guy who, if you remember like the early Mike McCarthy days, and I'm really trying to lean back into like what success has this said coach had? What was the key to their formula? Obviously, it helps when you have prime Aaron Rodgers, which they're getting a 10 years expired of version and a few months, I suppose, when he comes out of his ayahuasca cave. But when I think of the Packers, I always think of them having a plethora of really good weapons, but B, really solid offensive tackle play. David Bakhtiari locked it down for a long time. Brian Bulaga before that. They had TJ Lang, who I know he moved to guard. The Packers kind of really always had that anchor, that really dependable guy on the offensive line. Maega is a guy to me who could be that guy. Played at Miami, who was really, really good this year. Like the U is back, everything like that. I think personally they would be thrilled to get a guy like him, a guy who is probably considered by some people to be the best offensive tackle in this draft. I mean, opinions are always going to be split on certain players. There's a lot to like about him specifically, and especially if he's there at 21, I think the Steelers would love to take him.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. This is a guy that could potentially be a anchor on your
Mm-hmm.
offensive line. And when we say anchor, that's his biggest strength. He anchors down. You don't bull rush this guy. You can't. It can't be done.
It's like a tree stump.
Yeah, exactly. Now we move on to the Chargers. And you tell me, it's very obvious. What was the Chargers' biggest issue last year?
Well, I don't know. Maybe the fact that Justin Herbert got sacked 84 times in the playoff game, that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a big issue.
The interior offensive line. Well, the offensive tackles were hurt.
Yeah,
Offensive
they were
tackles are
hurt.
both coming back.
Yeah.
So now it's just the interior. The interior sucked last year. They brought in guys. They brought in a new center, new guard, but there's still another guard spot there. Vega Ione is still here. Lock it in.
Yeah.
Just lock in every way. Fits the McDaniel. offense, without a doubt. Yeah, he has the moving ability.
Yep.
And man, this guy can pass protect. It's a slam dunk. It's a slam
Yeah.
dunk. If he's here, he's going. It's a
No.
slam dunk.
We don't need to spend any more time talking about it. That's one of the best marriages we've made so far in this draft. So I'll pat us on the back for doing that and setting up the board this way. But now I think we have a really
Yeah, the
interesting pick
script
here.
writers, man.
Yeah, we are such good script writers, and we're letterbox reviewing our own movie. It's awesome. That's how the system is working. But at pick 23, very interesting because the Philadelphia Eagles are coming from a spot of okay. Last year we won the Super Bowl. We were like everybody went into the year thinking we're the most stacked team. We have no weaknesses. Howie Roseman is the best football minds we've seen since George Papa Bear Hallis. Like we are set up, and then you lose to a JV 49ers team in the playoffs. And you're like, what happened? What happened? Was it just drama? Was it coaching? What was it? And I think that especially now as we're removed from free agency, so many guys left in free agency, they're in a position where they need to probably recoup some of that talent, right? If you look at what Howie Roseman likes, and if you look at the way that they operate and the way that they draft players, move players specifically, I think you have to go with C.J. Allen out of Georgia. They love them some Georgia Bulldogs. Nakobe Dean left in free agency. This is a position that has been of high importance for Howie Roseman. He drafted Jahad Campbell, again another SEC guy. They paid Zach Bond.
That's why I don't think you do this, because they have Campbell.
I wonder if Zach Bond is on the team for much longer. I'll say
that. So you're saying C.J. Allen replace? Okay.
I think C.J. Allen.
That is the Howie Roseman team building mentality.
Exactly. I don't think that Zach Bond is going to see the duration of his contract. Now all of a sudden you get Zach Bond out of the way, right? You trade him, do whatever, and you have two young, cost-controlled SEC linebackers. Those are 5 of Howie Roseman's favorite words that I just strammed into one sentence. I mean, he's salivating at the mouth thinking about this right now. So I think that Zach Bond is gone. I think C.J. Allen is his replacement, and you combine him and Jahad Campbell. I know when I said C.J. Allen, you're probably like, dude, you're totally forgetting about Zach Bond. I'm not. Trust me, it's all in the master plan because the Eagles are in a position where they're paying so many guys. Some of these guys are going to have to recoup them assets. And so to have them under contract and get some assets for them, I think is the wheeling and dealing that we know from Howie Roseman. So that's what I'm predicting here. I'm predicting C.J. Allen, and then there's a trade. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe it's next year or whatever. But I don't know that Zach Bond is a Philadelphia Eagle for more than a year. That's my bold prediction. That might be my boldest prediction.
Jumping the gun a little bit.
I think that's – but Howie Roseman invented jumping the gun, in fairness.
You're right. But
he's like the track player.
High-caliber player.
And that's why you could get premium picks for him, or premium assets back for him, is what I'm saying. That's how he's going to think, I believe.
Yeah, but that's also Vic Fangio that's near retirement. You think he wants to give away go ahead and trade his
Pookie
blue dot player?
No, listen, I'm not saying Vic Fangio's going to love it, but Howie Roseman don't care. I mean, Howie Roseman.
I don't think he cares much about the head coach. I think he cares more about Fangio.
I'm cranking the aggressiveness sliders to 1,000 because I am currently in the shoes of Howie Roseman. I'm trying to think. You ever try to think like a psychopath? Like that's what I'm trying to think.
Well, you should have went psychopath and drafted Caden Proctor as some of the worst film you've seen at offensive tackle ever. That would have been psychopath.
No, I should have drafted Caden Proctor to the Lions so they could throw another offensive lineman a pass. Okay, or the Bear. Maybe the Bears coming up. Maybe that's my pick for the Bears. Who knows? It's not. I promise you, it's not. But
he's gonna go. You got to go somewhere where they could develop offensive linemen. Yeah, they lost Jeff Stoutland. I don't know. I could have seen them going that. That's what I would have done. But it's your pick. Speaking of offensive tackles going to places, the Browns are not drafting Caden Proctor. If that happens, it's not going to get better than DeJuan Jones because DeJuan Jones is the guy they're trying to replace at left tackle, and they just would have 2 of him.
Caden Proctor was so hyped going into college. I remember because he's
very big.
He was very big, and there was a moment.
He still is very big.
They were going to transfer to Iowa. Yeah, right. He's very big still, of course. But I remember he was going to transfer to Iowa at one point because they pump out offensive linemen like nobody's business. But it just like a lot of things in the Kalen DeBoer era at Alabama, it just has not fully really clicked for him, unfortunately.
No, it hasn't. That's why the Browns are not taking him. They're taking Caleb Lameau, who is a far more refined, far better prospect. I actually really like Lameau. I do. Out of Utah, I like both the Utah tackles a lot. They're both really agile, really nimble, while still having solid anchor and power. I like the two of them. They're both very good players. He's not as good as Spencer Fano, but he's like a step down. They're very similar players. Who one's a little bit better than the other, but they're very similar in terms of play style. I like Lamo a lot. I think he's a good pick here for Cleveland, and he's definitely better than DeJuan Jones.
I remember earlier or towards the end of the college football season, looking up and being so surprised. I'm like, how is Utah so good this year? And then you watch the tape of their offensive tackles, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
They're just beating the shit out of everybody. Their offensive
exactly.
tackles are. So that I get it. It's all right. Totally makes sense for the Browns to go off to tackle. Although Caden Proctor is the guy they're going to pick. I hate to break it to you, they are going to take Kalen Proctor. And Browns fans, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're just going to have to deal with it. And I'm so sorry. For the Bears, I think that in the situation the Bears are in, there's really one, maybe two positions you could argue. I think the Bears need defensive line help like we as humans need oxygen to breathe. Their defensive line, if you have any issues with what I'm about to say, I need you to go back and watch the San Francisco 49ers game. I need you to go back and watch the Green Bay Packers game. I need you to go back and watch the Detroit Lions game in the stretch run of last season. The defensive line was getting zero penetration. Zero. Nothing. And I understand that a lot of the guys they added last offseason, Grady Jarrett, Dio Dangbo, who's motivated, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. Dio Dangbo's motivated, so he's about to break Myles Garrett's sack record. Shamar Turner, those guys got hurt last year, and weren't able to contribute like they were supposed to. Some of those guys you didn't feel good about even going into the year, but obviously it doesn't help with the injuries. They're going with the defensive lineman. And I believe that they want a guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything. You want a guy that's going to be able to plug holes in the running game because as much as the Bears' running offense was good, later on in the year, teams realized, hey, we can kind of run the ball on these guys. And Dennis Allen did his best to switch up his defense and play a variety of formations and everything to try to dissuade teams from doing that. But what they really didn't have was any pass rush, especially from the interior. I'm going with Cade McDonald out of Ohio State. I think has the ability to rush the passer from the interior, which is something the Bears desperately need. I maybe would have used this pick to try to go get a Max Crosby. That didn't happen. I'm past it. It's okay. But regardless, this pick is being used on a defensive lineman. Cade McDonald is the move for the Bears here.
So now the Bills are up. And this is where we go back to the
promoted Brandon
We're
Beane.
Not the ones picking.
Yeah.
They need a wide receiver. I think they're going to take a wide receiver, right? I don't think they're planning on going into the season with DJ Moore as their wide receiver one.
Yeah. Let's reignite that argument real quick, huh?
Yeah, no, I don't think they plan on doing that.
Yeah.
And considering how they talked about Keon Coleman, I think they now have no choice but to ostracize him from the starting lineup. So you have to get another wide receiver. And they have a type at wide receiver. That type is bad player, but it is still a type.
That type is bad player?
Yeah.
That's good.
No, it's not bad player. It's 50-50 ball grabbing, not really route running specialist types of guys.
Yeah.
That's not what they like to do. They have Khalil Shakir, so I don't think they're going to go Omar Cooper, who is definitely the best receiver on the board right here. I have no doubt about that. Yep. They're not going to go with Casey Concepcion, who I really like, but I think he's a little bit too much of a well-rounded skill set. They like to go for the one flashy skill guys.
Yeah.
It's Denzel Boston. It's this is so Denzel Boston, and it's not going to go well at all. It's so
yeah.
Shout out 50-50 balls, man.
Every draft they want Randy Moss, but they ain't got Randy Moss money, so Denzel Boston it is, champ. Like that's the philosophy they go with. I'm with you.
No, the issue is that they look for the guys who have the one elite skill, and they don't care if they're good at other things. And they never go with the elite route runner.
Yeah, no, they don't.
He's elite after the catch. Oh, he's elite with the 50-50 ball. He's elite with this. And I think Denzel Boston allows them to ostracize Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think because of how you talked about him, you have no choice but to do it. So Denzel Boston,
just force feed him so much or just give him like 130 targets this year just to like make him not depressed anymore. Maybe that's the strategy. I don't know.
No, I think they want him to be depressed at this point because then if he starts performing well, if Keon Coleman goes off for 1,000 yards, who wins? Like
Josh
really,
Allen,
who
that's it.
wins? I'm
Josh
telling you
Allen.
now, the Bills don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the Bills don't win games because of it. If
Sean
Keon
McDermott
Coleman
might
goes
win.
off for 1,300 yards, Brandon Bean gets fired. No, Brandon Bean gets promoted again. I don't
He'll
know.
get promoted
No,
again. Yeah.
Brandon
They make him
Bean
the
gets
owner
fired.
at that point. Yeah.
Joe Brady gets murdered out back. Like, no one wins if Keon Coleman has a good season.
There's someone. Sean McDermott wins. Sean McDermott's
Okay,
you're right. I did
right.
want that guy. F you, Brandon Bean. I did want that guy. And so he wins in that situation. It's really, we're just playing the PR game. That's what this sport is. That's what life is, guys. We're just playing the PR game here. So he's gonna land a crucial blow. Now we're going to go to pick 27 with the San Francisco 49ers, and I want you to go back about 2 minutes. I want you to copy everything I said about the Chicago Bears, and I want you to paste it on the San Francisco 49ers. They need defensive line help badly. Nick Bosa, don't know if he'll ever be the same. I know he'll be, coming back week 1, but 2 ACL tears now we're talking about for Nick Bosa. I don't know if he'll ever be the elite pass rusher that we will see, like we've seen in years past from him. Specifically, I do think that they need help on the defensive interior. I'm going to go with Caleb Banks out of Florida. Would probably be my number 2 defensive tackle to Kenny McDonald. Again, everything I said about the Bears, I'm going to say about the 49ers. This is a team, 49ers dealt with a lot more injuries. Or the Bears actually were fairly injured as well. People don't talk about that. But 2 teams that had big aspirations, big hopes, but they were neutered by their lack of pass rush and their lack of defensive line win rate. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when the Bears and the 49ers played each other at the end of the year, they were the 2 worst teams in terms of pass rush win rate. Another stat I want to throw out that is legit, in 2 games in Levi Stadium, which would be one against the 49ers and the Super Bowl, the Seahawks had more sacks than the 49ers did at Levi Stadium all year. That is a real stat that puts a smile on my face, quite frankly, but probably does not put a smile on the face of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They're going with defensive linemen. I would not doubt that at all.
So, again, now we continue on my trend on my end of teams making picks I don't like, but it's the pick they'll make. The Texans are the type of team that likes to bring in the Trent Browns and Laramie Tunsil's and the big guys.
Laramie Tunsil was good for him, to be fair.
No, I'm not saying bad.
Yeah,
Trent Brown even had his moments, but like
he was solid.
they like huge, big, ginormous offensive tackles.
Yeah, they do.
This is the Caden Proctor team.
Is there a coincidence that their coach D'Amico Ryans is a Alabama Crimson Tide alumnus?
Well, they like to get Alabama guys. They do. They like to
pretty
get
good strategy in years past. I won't lie. Pretty good strategy
in years past. Not as much anymore.
Yeah, not in the Kalen DeBoer era. No.
Yeah. This is such the Caden Proctor team, and it sucks because he's not good.
Nick Caserio is going to be put on trial,
especially teams that can't develop offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, let me say something maybe head ass. If the Eagles still had Jeff Stoutland.
Sure. Amen. Absolutely.
Caden Proctor, I would be like, all right, because I know that we are going to see the max level of Caden Proctor. And
can the Texans bring in Jeff Stoutland?
Yeah, what is going on?
Listen, Jeff Stoutland left, and he didn't say he retired.
Jeff Stoutland
he can go to another team.
Jeff Stoutland's going to be the first 8-figure offensive line coach we've ever seen. Some team's going to pay him a 3-year, 50. Yeah, no, he's worth it.
It's worth it.
I don't care. Take my money, bro. I'll pay him more than the head coach. I don't give a shit. Like, develop my offensive lineman. Like, I don't care.
He contributed more to the Eagles Super Bowl than Howie Roseman, or not Howie Roseman. Than
Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni. I said Howie Roseman.
I think I contributed.
I should be thrown off of a building for that.
I think the Philly mob, they're tracking your IP address as we speak, brother. It's been good knowing you. But here we go at pick 29. This is the pick they acquired from the Rams for Trent McDuffie. I've already
The
taken the corner.
Chiefs.
I've covered my bases. I've covered, the need that they have, especially after losing him and Jalen Watkins. Now I think we talk about a team that really, really needs some help on offense. And it's crazy to say, but since Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs have not had a dependable, reliable wide receiver one. Rashee Rice, you can't depend on him off the field.
Oh,
You can't depend on him off the field. Xavier Worthy, at this point in his career, is just a gadget guy. They haven't had a dependable, consistent receiver for Mahomes. Now, the other reason I believe that they're going to continue to invest in offense is because they just gave Kenneth Walker 3 years, $45 million. They brought back Travis Kelce, a guy that I really, really like that I think would be great in this Kansas City offense. And I know he's kind of a similar mold to the other receivers they have. Casey Concepcion for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that is a quintessential Andy Reid pick. I think you look at the playmakers he's had in the past and what he's going to be able to do with Casey Concepcion. I think that this is a quintessential Kansas City Chiefs pick. I think Andy Reid and Brett Veach will be all over this.
yeah, he's kind of a do-it-all guy, but
Yes.
you're right. He's a very similar mold in terms of his
Yes.
main thing is being kind of a burner that's going to beat you downfield and get some explosive plays,
Yes.
which they have a lot of those. They should go in a different direction, but they don't. They don't like to.
Is he
It's
a
not what they
poor
do.
man's Deshaun Jackson?
No, because he's good. Casey Concepcion is a good football player.
Deshaun Jackson was good. What are you talking about?
Oh, I thought you meant like poor man. Like when you say poor man, I
I mean,
never say good.
If Deshaun Jackson's I'm horrible at cards, but if Deshaun Jackson's a souped up Ferrari, is this guy like
Oh,
a Ford
okay.
Mustang? Is he like a
Yeah. No, I like Casey Concepcion. Like
Okay.
he's a good football player. It's just you do want to add a different type of receiver. But still, like he's a good player and he'll help you a lot in a lot of ways. They just
I
need
think
they
that's
need
Andy Reid's
different
type of
talent.
receiver though. I
It
think
is.
that's the
No, it is, but
yeah.
he should
Yeah.
stop having a type, in all
Uh,
honesty. It is
yeah.
what they should stray from, but they haven't yet, so it is probably what they will do.
Yep.
Now we're looking at the Denver Broncos. And this is another team I think can go wide receiver, but you know what else they could do? If we want to talk a little bit of the rich get richer route, this is a team I think should go interior defensive line a little bit.
Ooh.
They should. I really do believe so. And I see Peter Woods, who I think is the best interior defensive. I think he's the best interior defensive lineman in the class.
Ooh, over Caden McDonald and
Yes.
okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's where I currently stand. Peter Woods, I really do like what he offers you on the table. I think he's able to get to the quarterback. He has shown that. And man, this guy's a big body with some athlete to him. Like he could chase down some outside zones and everything like that. Like I really am a Peter Woods guy.
Yeah.
I really do think bringing him in isn't the best move because I also really love. I will say so. There's the unanimous top three receivers. But if you ask me, Omar Cooper is better than Carnell Tate, personally. That's not a knock as much on Carnell Tate. That's more of, I just think the trends of what has worked in this league is a little bit more towards Omar Cooper, in my opinion. But I do like Carnell Tate. That's not slander towards him. I think the
It's a little
four
bit.
of them are one tier. I'm just
slander.
letting that be known. I know you don't agree with that, but I'm letting that be known. I like Omar Cooper a lot.
Yeah, I like Omar
So-
Cooper too.
I'm in this spot between Peter Woods and Omar Cooper. I'm really not sure. I'm really not. But again, Peter Woods, I think, is the best defensive lineman available.
Yeah.
I think he's the best defensive lineman in the entire class.
Yeah.
I think you do get more out of adding a wide receiver here. I think that's more of the need, though.
Okay.
I think Peter Woods is the better player. But
Interesting.
this is a Broncos team that needs the offensive help a little bit more. So I'm going to go Omar Cooper.
So,
I-
what's so funny is I thought you picked Peter Woods, so I preemptively selected Peter Woods. So
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll make that little adjustment for you guys at the end of this video. But you were hyping up Peter Woods. I was like, okay, click, and then you're like, but, and I'm like, oh shit. So he, we're gonna just.
What's
highlight-
awesome about this for those listening and watching, shout out to the audio only listeners who haven't
Yes.
even been able to see the mock. But what's also about this is I don't see it either. So I know how the audio listeners feel.
Yeah, no, he can't see my screen that I'm sharing with the mock. I hope. Were you able to see my face when you said Omar Cooper? Because I was like,
Nope.
he went with Omar Cooper. But your fault for not for hyping up Peter Wood so much. So whatever, we'll move past it.
Oh yeah, no, my bad. How dare I? Build suspense.
Real men blame each other. They don't ever take accountability. Remember that,
Yep.
audience. For the New England Patriots, I think this is pretty simple. You watched Drake May get absolutely shredded in the Super Bowl. Your offensive line was horrible. They had bad communication. They, I was, I'll be honest with you. Before the draft, I thought the people being like, "Will Campbell's arm is too short. He's gonna have to play guard." I'm like, you guys are ridiculous. He had great film at LSU. He was mauling people, and I this year became radicalized by the short arm offensive tackle club. I really did. Like I saw it so many times on tape where his arms were just not long enough. Did you see Derek Hall give him the forearm in the Super Bowl? Just stuck his hand
Yep.
out, and Will Campbell like couldn't engage with him. So I really am thinking. I know they've said they're going to keep him at left tackle. I really am thinking that he might bump into guard, which he would be much better at, where arm length isn't as important. I do think that regardless of what they do with Will Campbell, they are going to go with an offensive lineman. And to me, the best one, and probably the last one with a first round grade in the eyes of coaches. Again, this is not what I would do. This is what I think the Patriots are going to do.
I don't listen. I know it's just that we're looking at the PFF thing, and it says these guys are graded as first round guys. I don't think there's a single guy on earth who has a first round grade on Blake Miller. I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you.
It depends on what each team has, because I don't know what the Patriots scouting board looks like. So at a certain degree, I'm trying to say,
even then, do you think they have a high enough grade to say he's a better tackle than Will Campbell? Even though Will Campbell, if you say we're moving him to guard because we got Penny Sewell or Trent Williams on our team, I get you. But I can't get behind this. This is one I just don't agree.
I don't know. I'm going to take it. I feel confident that Mike Vrabel is no idiot. Josh McDaniels is no idiot. They saw Will Campbell last year absolutely get just, as the kids would call it, frame mogged by who thought we were going to get a frame mogged reference on the mock draft, huh? Raise your hand. No, you didn't. He got frame mogged all the time. I'm not actually going to use that as my analysis. I'm sorry, but he got bulldozed a lot, and his arm length was a big problem. It was. I'm not making it up. It was a big problem. I don't know that they think they could survive at left tackle with him. And I know I saw a video with Andrew Whitworth, and he was talking about how guys who have shorter arms have to play the position a little differently. They have to be a little bit more reactive. They can't, overextend and reach, because then they're going to get swiped out of the way, and the defensive ends with long arms will always beat them. But I don't know. I think tackle's probably the move here. Listen, I don't love Blake Miller. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I don't love Blake Miller. And so is there another offensive tackle? I know there's the guy from ASU. Is there another offensive tackle that you would take in that spot to begin with, or you would say there's just not a guy high enough on their list to take offensive tackle?
Will Campbell, towards the end of the season, he played against some damn good edge rushers. He did in the playoffs and got destroyed. Sure, yeah. But he's a rookie playing against some of the best pass rushers in the league. That's what happened there.
No,
but the rest of the season, he was really damn good at tackle. For a rookie, I don't think they have this absurd need at tackle where you need to really search and reach for guys to go ahead and draft a replacement. I get it if there was someone that fell here, but you don't need to reach. I say the Patriots should be going BPA for sure, and this is definitely not the BPA per
No, it's definitely not BPA. I think we're in disagreement on how urgent their need is at tackle. I think that's where our disagreement would stem. So yeah. I think that they think that it's a big problem.
I don't.
That's what
I don't. I don't.
All right.
And I think everything that they've talked about has only proven that more and more that that's where they stand. But we disagree on that.
You have a lot of pressure though with this next pick because.
Well, I think it's very easy.
Oh, it is very easy. Okay, let me hear it. Let me hear who you take.
Well, I mean, you give me the context because of course we lost guys.
Yeah.
Right? We lost a lot of valuable players, right? We lost some pieces on the defensive line, we lost some pieces in the secondary. But God damn it, we're the Super Bowl champion. Hey, you want to know why we just won the Super Bowl? If you're the Seattle Seahawks, you want to know why? I mean, you know why, but you want to know why? Just for those
I want to know why. Tell me.
Because we have the deepest defensive line in the sport. And
Yep.
yeah, we lost a few guys, but I just talked about it earlier. The best interior defensive lineman in the class is available right now in Peter Woods. Why the hell would you not take him? Add
Yeah.
some more depth to that unit. Maybe he won't start, but god damn it, he might be the when you talk about a six man in basketball, we got the 12th. We got the 12th man for the 12th man right here.
There you
We
go.
do. That's what this
There you
is
go.
right here. Peter Woods, you draft him. I think it's a slam dunk and a great rotation on the defensive line.
So I'll be honest. I did think you were gonna go with a corner there, because that is the bread and butter of Seattle. It's been that way since John Schneider first got here. I thought you were gonna go with Brandon Cisse, Sissy. However, it feels bad calling him Sissy. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce his name, but because I accidentally picked Peter Woods for you, I picked 30. I forgot he was on the board. So when you said Peter Woods, I was like, you already took him. No, you didn't. You took Omar Cooper. So I took Omar Cooper for Seattle, and we could flip 30 and 32 accordingly. But yeah, that would definitely be the pick if he was there at 32. I don't think. I mean, Seattle fans are all up in arms because Kenneth Walker left. Understandably, he's a great player. They want to take Mike Washington at pick 32. That's ridiculous. That's way too rich.
Definitely.
They want. I would have actually been very on board with Casey Concepcion if A, he was available, and B, they didn't re-sign Rashid Shaheed. But that's now that's kind of a stupid pick if you take him there. I agree. The depth of this defensive line, and they really didn't lose anything in the interior, right? Big Cat's still there. Byron Murphy's still there. They lost Boye Mafe, which was really their only loss in the defensive line. And in fairness, he's like their seventh best pass rusher, so really not a huge loss for him. But Tank Lawrence may or may not retire. I don't know if you saw that rumor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think probably you're right. Probably just keep, that's the strategy of like the Eagles in the last few years. Is just like, oh, we have a great defensive line. Let's be greedy. Let's get more defensive linemen. So I'm
Yeah.
with it.
And it worked.
Yeah, it did work. It did work. So I'm with it. Yeah, the Seahawks, like I said, don't have any pressing. They're not terrible anywhere. Like they don't have a pressing need. I could use
No.
another interior offensive lineman, and if there was
And
a
they
right
could use
guard,
the other corner. Like you're right. Like
they
I'm looking
could.
now.
But Josh
Josh
Jobe
Jobe.
resigned. I like
Yeah.
Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe's solid. I like Josh
Yeah.
Jobe.
And
Spoon, you probably want to
exactly.
play in that like kind of. I know you can't
Mhm.
say robber because he's a corner, but he plays the closest to a robber that a corner could play. He's just all over the field, does whatever.
This defense, like saying positions in this defense, just feels so
Yeah,
false
you could just
because you're like,
categorize them.
oh yeah, Witherspoon's just a corner, but he's actually kind of a linebacker, low key,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, yeah, and Nicky
You can't even
Manlaurin,
say
he's a nickel,
DB.
but he's also a safety, but he's also kind of a linebacker
Yeah,
too,
you can't even say
and
DB
like.
because it's like, oh yeah, Eamon Warren lines up at will, but he also lines up at slot. He also lines up at free safety. Like
And
they
Demarcus
just
Lawrence is kind of like a defensive end, but he's also kind of like a weak side
three tech.
linebacker.
Yeah, he's kind of like a three. He plays three tech sometimes. Like he kind of does whatever. Like the
Yeah, and
Mike.
that's where it's like, oh yeah, they still have all their interior defensive linemen. And it's like, but like you need to kind of do the Boye Mafe thing still,
The
a
one,
little bit.
the one only problem I would have with that would be the Riley Mills part of it all. Riley Mills was taken last year.
How valuable of a piece do you think he is?
I think because you got to remember he came into the draft hurt. I think this
Mhm.
is basically a first or second, maybe not first, maybe a second round talent that the Seahawks got later in the draft, and they were just patient with him and didn't play his
Okay.
first game. I think his first game was the Colts game. So I think they
And
do
I
have
mean,
big
listen,
plans
he
for
had a
Riley.
career highlight in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
he
so
dunked
awesome
on
to
a
have your
guy.
first.
That was
Yeah,
insane.
that's so awesome. Like just, and that's what I'm saying. Like if that's the guy we're getting, I'm like, oh, I feel really good about our defensive line right now. Long gone are the days of L.J. Collier and Benson Mayowa for you ball knowers out there. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, really, when you have no needs, you could just take BPA. And if BPA is Peter Woods, then it's Peter Woods. If BPA is Caden Proctor, no, I'm just kidding. Please God, no.
It will not be Caden.
I will say, ideal scenario would be if a guard falls to Seattle and get Anthony Bradford off my team. But we're at the Anthony Bradford part in our episode, which means we have to cut off the cameras immediately. So thank you guys for watching. I know this was a bit of a different episode, but we plan on giving you guys more mock drafts in preparation for the draft, which will be obviously one of the best nights of the year. This is our final list. Again, please swap 30 and 32 in your minds. That's my bad. I jumped the gun a little bit on that one, but that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in our next episode.